Hello comic lovers, welcome to the 9th episode of the Boys comic series. In the previous episode, we saw Butcher and Huey starting to investigate the case related to Swing Wing. To understand this case better, they go to a man named Paul Drake and find out more about Swing Wing and Tek Knight. On the other hand, Tek Knight's butler, Thomas, gets angry at him for some action and leaves the house. Also, Ladio tells Vought many things about Tek Knight, which leads to Tek Knight's suspension from payback being extended. Finally, Butcher and Huey go to Tek Knight's house to talk to him. Now, before we move forward, I have a request for you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. 99% of the audience coming to the channel are those who haven't subscribed. So, if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel. It motivates us to create even better content for you. Also, if you haven't followed us on social media platforms, please do so. And if you want to support the channel, you can support us on Buy Me Coffee. Additionally, if you want to enjoy the Boys comic without any filters, the correct reading order is also available for you. All these links can be found in the video description. So, after all that, let's start with this issue of The Boys. Butcher and Huey walk straight into Tek Knight's house, and Butcher says, "You won't mind if we come in, right, Squire?" Upon hearing Squire, Tek Knight gets a little nervous and says, "Wait, what did you just call me? Look, I'm not Tek Knight or whoever you think I am, and you can't just walk into my house like this." But Butcher and Huey ignore his words and go to the library, where after pulling out a book, Butcher finds a way to Tek Knight's hidden hideout behind the library. While going down the ladder to the hideout, Butcher tells Tek Knight and Huey, "About 6 years ago, one of your payback team members, Eagle Archer, beat his girlfriend into a coma. I kept this a secret, and in return, he told me every detail about all the members of his team, no matter how small. And that's how I found out about you and this hideout." Tek Knight says, "Jesus, who are you people?" Butcher sits down in a chair there and says, "You've already had quite a few shocks, friend, so let's get straight to business. We have some questions to ask you." Just then, Huey asks, "Where's the washroom here?" Tek Knight tells him the way to the washroom and says, "Was that the only question you had to ask?" Butcher smiles and says, "Good start." Butcher continues, "We want to know about one of your friends." Huey goes off to find the washroom. Butcher asks Tek Knight about Swing Wing. Tek Knight says, "Swing Wing? Of course he's gay. I mean, I always knew, but I didn't know about him and Rubenstein. But yeah, one thing's for sure, Swing Wing likes people his own age." Butcher says, "But the boy we talked to yesterday doesn't think so. He's gay too, and he's met Swing Wing several times." To which Tek Knight asks, "Is he older?" Butcher says, "Yeah, a little bit." So Tek Knight says, "Then maybe he's telling the truth. Look, I'm not saying Swing Wing was very specific. In fact, I'm not saying anything at all. What he did, what his interests were, that's his problem. But yeah, he was definitely gay." On the other hand, Huey manages to find a washroom, but to open it, he needs to do a fingerprint verification, which is why Huey is unable to open it. Butcher asks Tek Knight further if it bothers him that Swing Wing is gay. Tek Knight responds, "Why would it bother me?" Butcher says, "The same guy told me that you don't like gays, to the extent that you don't even want to stand near them." Tek Knight replies, "Well, it's difficult for me to answer such accusations when I don't even know who is making them. But okay, yes, it's true that I'm not entirely comfortable around them. But Swing Wing used to be my sidekick, and we are still good friends. And his sponsors, like comic book publishers and others, they also decided that he should be more involved with gay groups and society. So, I also went with him a few times to show my support." On the other hand, Huey's pressure increases a lot, and he is shouting to open the gate, but no one can hear his voice. Butcher further asks Tek Knight, "Any idea where Swing Wing can be found now?" Tek Knight replies, "Well, actually, I also had some urgent things to discuss with him. So, if you give me your number, maybe I'll definitely let you know." Butcher says, "Better than that, you directly tell me where he is right now." At this, Tek Knight gets a little irritated and says, "As far as I know, you are a government man, right? Or from some law enforcement. and like a good citizen, I have told you everything. But everything has a limit, and I think I have reached that limit. Eagle knew about coming here, but he didn't know about my defense grid. After which Butcher gets up and says, "All right then, now we are leaving." And saying that, Butcher calls out to Huey, and then we see that due to the washroom gate not opening, Huey ends up peeing outside. Then the scene changes, and we go to the boys' office, where Butcher also tells Frenchie and about Huey peeing outside, and they both make fun of him and laugh at him. To change the subject, Huey tells all of them, "Okay, enough now, we also have to work," but they keep laughing. After which, Huey shouts and says, "I'm serious. Look, old legend said that before dying, Steven Rubenstein was with Swingwing, and whatever we have found out so far also supports this. So why don't we go and talk to Swingwing himself?" Butcher says, "Well, first of all, we don't know where he is. Maybe Tech Knight would have told us, but his courage came back and he started threatening me instead. But Drake was right that Tech Knight doesn't like gays. It was clear from his words. Says he won't kill anyone to get into a relationship with his ex-sidekick." Huey then asks Frenchie when this message arrived, and Huey sees that the message is from Drake. In the next scene, we go back to the same bar where Drake works, but this time, Huey goes there alone. When Huey arrives there, he sees that Drake's boyfriend Max is also standing with him. Drake says Max has remembered something that he wants to tell you, or in other words, confess to you. Then we see that Max is standing quite tensed and tells Drake, "Paul, I swear that..." But Drake cuts him off and says, "Tell them everything." So Max nervously tells Huey, "After you came here yesterday, there was a fight between me and Paul, in which I saw... It's not like I wanted all this, but yes, I was the one who sent Steven to Swingwing." Drake says, "Tell them the rest of the story too." Max continues, "I swear to God that I didn't want to hurt him. Yes, I didn't like Steven, but that doesn't mean I wanted to get rid of him or do something like that. Anyway, I never went to those stupid meetings. I always believed that it was just nonsense. So one night when I was waiting to meet Paul, I arrived there a little early before the meeting ended, and I saw Swingwing going." Huey asks, "Was he going home?" Max explains, "Look, I know that these superheroes wear masks to hide their real identities, but if you look closely even once, even with the mask, you can easily recognize their real face next time. And I also found out about Swingwing's real identity and where he lives." Max continues, "Then one day, when I came back to the bar, Steven wouldn't leave Paul alone, and I told Steven about Swingwing to get him away. I knew Steven liked Swingwing and considered him his idol, so if I introduced him to his idol, he would leave Paul." Hearing these words from Max, Drake angrily says, "But didn't you think that if Swingwing was even a little bit worried about his secret identity, it wouldn't be good for Steven?" Max tries to convince Drake, saying, "Paul, look, that wasn't my intention." But Drake leaves from there angrily. After that, Max starts trying to prove his innocence to Huey, but Huey tells him, "I'm sorry to hear that, friend, but I have to go now." Saying this, Huey also leaves from there and reaches the boys' office. As soon as Huey enters the boys' office and is about to tell them about Max, Butcher shows him a newspaper and says, "Look at this." We then see that the newspaper has revealed Tech Knight's real identity, and many of his disgusting truths have come out in front of the world. Huey, while reading the newspaper, asks, "How did all this happen?" Answers his question before he finishes asking, saying, "The guy who wrote this piece mentioned that Tech Knight's butler quit a few days ago, and as soon as he left the job, he called the newspaper people and told them the whole truth about Tech Knight." Huey, surprised, says, "He even tried to harass his own butler? So Tech Knight is gay too? Then why was he so irritated when Drake saw him?" Butcher says, "Maybe Tech Knight was jealous of Swingwing talking to those people. They had been together for a long time, and Swingwing used to be his ladio, so who knows what was going on between them." To which Huey says, "And if he had seen Swingwing with someone else, then oh shit." Huey further explains that it was Drake's boyfriend who sent Steven to meet Swingwing so that he would get out of the way between Drake and him. But he had no bad intentions, you know. Butcher says, now it doesn't matter anymore. We'll have to go straight to Tech Knight because his secret is out anyway. Huey replies, his entire cave is filled with weapons. Who knows what he'll do to us, and you still want to go to him? In response, Butcher mocks Huey's mention of peeing in Tech Knight's cave, saying, yeah, maybe he'll be angry at the tiger you parked on his floor too. Butcher goes on to say, technically speaking, Tech Knight is not a soup at all. If we can get him out of his suit once, it won't be a big deal to defeat him. Huey asks, surprised, he's not a soup? Butcher further replies, he never took Compound V. Look, most people in soups have taken Compound V, but there are some whose body chemistry changed, making them subs, whether it happened by accident or by design. Some subs have even gone a step further and taken the help of surgery, like that Popclaw. But even after these, there are some subs who adopt a different approach. Huey asks, what approach? Butcher answers, money. People see subs flying around them and think, why don't I become a subs too? And then they keep using their money until someone makes them a super suit like this. Huey says, yeah, I've seen that suit. Butcher says, you'd be amazed to see some of today's technology. You just need someone to invest money. Huey asks further, if you manage to get him out of the chute, what will you do with him? I mean, if he's not a superhuman, he can't do much to us, and do we really need to beat him up? Huey stops after saying this, and Butcher responds, well, if he behaves, we'll have a little chat with him about his future, and if he doesn't, we'll have to give him a little beating. Butcher goes on to say, I know you don't like this, Huey, and there's no doubt that your start was pretty scary, but I'm not gonna pretend that don't worry, buddy, we'll handle everything. Leave it to us because, in this team, everyone does their own job, and there are no exceptions. Sooner or later, you'll have to accept that you'll have to hurt people. The scene then changes, and we move to Tech Knight's cave, where Tech Knight is quite angry after hearing the news about himself and says to himself, what must everyone be thinking about me now? That treacherous butler, if I get my hands on him, I'll rip his head off and wring his neck. Just then, a voice from behind says, I don't think I'll appreciate the threat you're giving to a man from my own country. Tech Knight turns around and sees Butcher sitting on his chair, with Huey standing next to him. Seeing Butcher and Huey, he angrily says, you! Butcher says, good evening, Squire. I hope you don't mind us dropping in unexpectedly. Tech Knight, with a confused and surprised expression, says, how did you get in here? What's going on? Butcher responds, we want to ask you once again what you did to Steven Rubenstein. Tech Knight replies, well, you can leave. Butcher says, come on, be a good boy and tell us everything. We don't want to fight. But Tech Knight angrily responds, but I want to fight. And as he says that, he's about to attack Huey and Butcher with a taser using his suit, when suddenly the female appears in front of him, breaks his suit, and throws him out after beating him. In that horrible condition, Tech Knight responds, I didn't kill him, I never even met him. Huey says, so you're saying you never saw Steven with Swingwing? Tech Knight says, yes, you can beat me as much as you want, call whoever you want, but I don't know how much it will help you. Huey says, but you told us that Swingwing is gay. Tech Knight responds, I said all that so that you would go after him. As far as I know, he's straight. Butcher asks, so why didn't you give us Swingwing's address? Tech Knight says, because I didn't like your attitude at all. That's why I didn't want to make things easy for you. Then Huey asks, but why are you trying to frame Swingwing? Isn't he your friend? Tech Knight says, I have some problems. I can't control my lust and I'm taking it out on anyone. And Swingwing told these things to Seven because I was going to be a part of the Seven team, and in this way, he ruined my chances of getting into Seven, just as he wanted. And there were two reasons for this. One was to clear the way for himself in Seven, and the second reason was whatever happened with Telon. Butcher says, what do you mean? Tech Knight tells them, I can't exactly tell you here. Basically, it goes like this. It was back when Swingwing was Ladio, meaning Tech Knight's sidekick. And Talon was a sup who sometimes helped Tech Knight and Ladio fight crime, and sometimes fought against Tech Knight and Ladio by committing crimes herself. But after some time, the three of them realize that after years of running and chasing, they have actually become very good friends with each other. But then Talon disappears for a few years and doesn't meet Tech Knight and Swingwing. But one day, she suddenly comes to meet them, and because Talon had an eye on Tech Knight before, she knows about Tech Cave, which is Tech Knight's hideout. So in celebration of Talon's return, Tech Knight, Talon, and Swingwing celebrate in Tech Knight's cave, where they drink so much wine that they don't have any sense of what's going on. And in this intoxication, they do a lot with each other, a lot. And after this incident, Swingwing and Tech Knight sort of become enemies, and Swingwing is no longer Tech Knight's sidekick. So this was The Boys Comic Volume 3 Get Some Part 3 video. If you liked it, then please like, share with friends, and definitely let me know in the comments if you have any feedback or suggestions. Also, you can follow me on social media using the links given in the description and find out the correct reading order of the Boys comic book series, so you can enjoy this comic series without any filter. So thank you for watching, comic lovers. See you in the next video.